Give the call to the member for Paterson.
Thanks, Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Employment and Workplace Relations. How are the Albanese Labor government's closing the labour loopholes laws delivering a better deal for workers, including in the mining industry, Minister? And are there any threats to this progress?
Give the call to the Minister for Employment, Workplace Relations and Minister for the Arts.
Thanks very much, Mr Speaker. And I thank the member for Paterson, who's had a very strong commitment to closing the labour hire loophole. And when she spoke last year in November on the closing loopholes legislation, the member for Paterson referred to workers in the mining industry trying to get a permanent shirt. Workers in the mining industry working side by side with other workers, doing the same job, same hours, side by side, but some employed by a labour hire company and some employed directly. I'm pleased to report, and some of you may have already seen this in an article that Ewan Hannon published in The Australian, that the pay rises of us having closed the labour hire loophole have already commenced. But what I think might have surprised some people was the extent of the underpayment that some of these workers were receiving. Now remember, this is an underpayment that those opposite said no to closing this loophole. They said you had to keep this underpayment. So for workers doing the exact same work, going to the exact same meetings every start of the shift, working the same rotating roster, sharing their breaks in the same crib huts on site, it turns out the pay gap for these workers at Mount Pleasant Coal Mine in the Hunter Valley, operated by Thiess, but some of the workers not employed by Thiess, some employed by a labour hire company, interestingly called Programmed. That was the name of the labour hire company. The underpayment was between $37,000 and $45,000 a year. Now, only because the law was changed, those workers, it was announced last week, are now going to be directly employed. Now, what does that mean in terms of your weekly pay? Because from the 1st of July, they're not just looking at a pay rise, they're also looking at a tax cut. And when you combine for these workers the pay rise because of the laws we changed, law changes they opposed, and the tax cut, a tax cut they also didn't want us to deliver, these workers are looking at getting $500 more in their pay packet every single week. $500 in their pay packet every week that those opposite and this Leader of the Opposition didn't want them to get the pay rise, didn't want them to get the tax cut. One of those workers, Danielle, been there for 2.5 years, has been working at the labour hire company. She said, for us to all be on the same rate of pay and have the same conditions will be a game changer. We all do the same work. There's really no difference between someone who's wearing a Thiess label or a Programmed label in terms of what we do day to day. Where there is a difference in a government that says yes to them getting $500 a week and a Leader of the Opposition committed to saying no.